Come on.
Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me?
Good morning.
Welcome. Happy
Morning.
Thursday. Okay, I think we are awaiting, looks like Ken to join us. Give him a minute.
Jeff, is the sheriff going to jump on with us today?
Said he was, so I'm guessing
Okay.
he's be clicking on here shortly.
Okay, thank you.
And today we do have Commissioner Meyer filling in for Commissioner Koveski.
I'm not sure that that's official, so I don't think I get to vote, but I am going to listen.
Oh, okay. Okay, and then I think too we're waiting for Market and Johnson. Looks like
Tyler's on, but I don't know if Casey is.
Yeah, I think Casey had something going on today, so it'll be just me.
okay. Okay. Hi, Tyler.
Morning.
Morning, Sheriff.
Good morning, Danielle. I wasn't sure if you guys needed me, but Chris got pulled away into another meeting. So I said I'd step in if need be.
No, I don't think so. We do have one topic regarding the city Board of Adjustments and changing the exterior graphics. Once we get into it, it'll be more clear what we're doing, but that'd be the only thing that I think maybe you'd have an opinion on.
Well, it's you guys' beautiful exterior, so I think I'll let you guys decide that.
While we're talking,
go ahead.
Okay, Commissioner Ward here. While we're talking exteriors, I'm disappointed that we're dealing with this now. I guess now better than later. But how did this not come into? You guys are the professional design. I'm paying. County's paying big bucks and everything, and it's disappointing that now we're having to deal with this at this point in the project.
Mm-hmm. Well, we have been communicating with the city throughout the design process and from when we were on the concept phase of the project and communicating where we are with the design process. And so the reason we hadn't gone to the city to talk about the exterior design is that we hadn't had it prepared until we had the schematic design renderings prepared. And so once we did have those prepared, we communicated those with the city right away. So the city planner had that information. And the feedback was that we were not, with the design that we had proposed, we weren't meeting 3 criteria of the city ordinance. And so those were reviewed at the meeting on May 5th. And because the deadline for getting the variance application in, if I recall, was 2 or 3 weeks prior to that. So that's identifying the timeline and why we're at where we're at in the process.
Yeah, Marcia, this is Ken. Even though it came up, it seems to have come up later in the process. If we had designed the building to the standards that they require, we would have designed it with 60% transparency. That would have avoided the variance for the transparency. Either case would have ended up in us asking for a variation to the transparency standard, whether we knew 5 months ago or whether we knew 3 months ago or 1 month ago. It wouldn't have made any difference.
Well, it's an irritant to me.
I
Is this
understand. I think
costing,
Go ahead.
is, other than, so in this design and engineering and all this stuff, is this a change order? Are the county taxpayers having to pay for all this changing work now because we have to meet, and we're going to try and reduce that percentage?
Well,
So is this
there-
costing the taxpayers more for this company to redesign it?
Yeah, I mean, in essence, that's what our design contingency is for. Remember when I told the board that when we went to the board that we would reduce the contingency by about $1 million if there were no design changes?
Yep,
Well-
that's gone now.
Well, no, I don't think it costs $1 million to have the
Write
changes
that
we
off.
made, but certainly that cost would come out of there. It's not $1 million. And so that's what that's for, in case there's a design change. As far as the actual structural change, the construction change, yeah, that'll affect our budget by some number. I'm not sure exactly how much yet, depending on what the city approves. But again, we have a contingency there as well. So
It doesn't make me feel any better. Thank you, though.
so I understand your situation. I mean, I don't really want to add additional money to a jail that doesn't really need windows, but they kind of, unless the city council wants to just say, hey, it doesn't matter because it's the county. If they uphold their standards, we need to compromise with them and come up with something we can live with.
Yeah, public perception is not favorable.
Well, I think that's kind of on the city. I mean, if the city decides to deny our variance or to require us to cost additional funding to meet the variance requirements, that's not us making that decision.
True. But we're all thrown under the bus at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, kind of hard
That's
to
part
avoid
of it.
that. Kind of
part
hard
of
to avoid that. Yeah.
But then Danielle, I did ask Carlos Espinoza how much barbed wire I could put up around the building. He didn't think he had a code restriction for that. So I said, check into it.
I was thinking to meet the height requirements, we could just use guard towers.
There you go.
Mm.
I mean,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, we'll just add another story to the building.
Just the corners.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm seeing in the chat that the agenda wasn't issued. Apologies for that. We had distributed it via email to the people who are on the distribution list on our end. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and just cover what our agenda topics are and just remind everyone who didn't get that. Let me get the screen share going here. And then,
Danielle, do you have the date and time that was sent?
it would have been a couple weeks ago.
I've got a 421 email from Danielle Reed.
Yeah.
My invitation was just sent by Dave Litherow, so that's why I didn't get it. It wasn't that I missed an email. It just wasn't on that list. So that,
Sure. No,
yeah.
that's understandable. Okay. So topics we're going to discuss today. We're going to go over where we're at in the schedule. We're going to further discuss the feedback we received from the city, as we were talking earlier. We're going to go over the site plan as it sits today and show you a couple of modifications since you guys have seen the plan previously. And then we're going to start to talk about the construction phasing of the existing building and talk about some of the impacts to the existing jail and the operations, and just talk through maybe some more details as far as how we're going to be remodeling dispatch. And then go over some of the FF&E items, and then get into the next steps moving forward. Any updates to this agenda you guys can think of you want to add, or are we good? Okay. The schedule, we are on track to issue the design development documents next week, Thursday. So those drawings will go to the county for review, as well as the CM. So Market and Johnson will take those documents and then provide a new revised cost estimate, which will take a few weeks. And we talked about previously releasing that the week of June 14th. Takes about 3 weeks for the team to get that pulled together, and then reviewing that with the county board. I think the assumption was that with that timeline, we'd be able to meet the board meeting, the first board meeting in July. And is it true that it's just July 6th? Is that right? The date here?
It's the Tuesday, the second Tuesday, but I'm not sure if that, I don't think that would be July
Okay.
6th for a board meeting.
Okay, I wasn't
It'd be the
sure.
13th.
Yeah,
The second Tuesday would be the 13th.
Yeah.
second Tuesday. Okay, well, let's think. Okay, so we've got, yeah, so then the deadline for the board packet for that is 2 weeks prior. So that would be June 29th that we'll be able to get everything included for that. And based on the timeline of getting the construction documents out the end of July, we've discussed that that will be the last estimate that will be reviewed with the board, due to the fact that the next estimate would be the GMP, which would then come out in, well, I guess it would be, Tyler, would it be end of August at that point? Maybe you want to clarify timeline for bidding period.
Yeah, and you and I, we may have to talk a little bit more, just kind of when we get the construction documents, exactly what we'll have for that. There might be some stuff we can get set up ahead of time with table of contents and all that for our work category packages and all that stuff. But
Yeah, absolutely.
typically, yeah, if we could get like a 3 week, 3 or 4, I don't think we need 4 with this, but I mean 3 or 4 weeks for the bidding process to have that sent out to subcontractors and all the invited bidders, and put it on the streets and publish and all that. So I would say if we had documents a little bit ahead of time before the 29th, where you and I can work together to get our table of contents written, the work category packages, so all the spec book is ready for that 29th, that we could get that out to the subcontractors to bid right away. 3-week process. In mid-August, we would have our bids were received. We could do a bid opening, and then we could do go through it with the county, and then have a full GMP number following that.
So maybe it's a question for Ken. Would we then want to have is it a special session for presenting the GMP? Or is it, because I'm looking at the calendar here, getting into September 14th would be the next scheduled board meeting after that.
So let's see. So you can't make the 20, is it the 24th then?
Yeah, because I'm assuming you'd want that information in the board packet before, so I think
Yeah.
that's cutting it close there.
Okay. So, yeah, if you're gonna, when would you have it available? The 19th, you said? No.
I think, Tyler, would it take a couple days for you guys to gather the bids? Because the bids would be due on likely the 19th, and then it'd be the following week. Would it be by the 24th
Okay.
you'd have it available?
So you might have it by early.
Yeah, I was gonna say if we get everything set up, so when I get documents sent to us, that it's going right on the streets to the bidders, and we give a 3-week window, that'd be, I think, a good time in case there's any questions and amendments and anything with it, or addendas. I mean, that 19th would probably be a fair bid date. And I mean, yeah, for us internally to turn it around, we could easily get it in a day or two at least compiled and have all the information to you. So you see the numbers, and if there's any numbers that are extremely whacked or something's wrong with the scope, or, it shouldn't take long to have to get for approval, because it would be nice to have it for the county board approval as soon as possible, because we drag out into September.
Yeah.
Getting material locked and everything, and just schedule.
Yeah.
As soon as we get
I'm
better.
thinking we could get the information from you, you know, the 24th and then have a special board meeting like the 31st or anytime that week that's amenable to the board. So then we cut out 2 weeks.
Yeah, that'd be perfect. That'd be ideal. We can, like I said, Market and Johnson we'll get our information compiled as quick as we have to keep schedule accelerated.
And if for some reason we can tighten this schedule up, you know, and we can, if we just moved it back, even let's see, even if you were to give us the results on the 16th somehow, well, you got the 19th of the bids, you can't. Okay. So anyway, if somehow we can tighten the schedule up and it gets back a little bit, we could hit the 24th meeting, but if not, we'd have to shoot for that week of the 31st. So probably the 31st because it's the 5th Tuesday of the month. But so that's kind of a tentative schedule again.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so I'll pencil those dates down, and then Danielle, we can talk, like I said, outside of this to kind of what we internally need from each other.
Absolutely.
So
okay.
I have a question, Tyler. So you put together the bids, you got the bids, you bring in the GMP. What happens if we need to, you know, value engineer something? I mean, we look at it and go, that bid's, you know, wait, maybe not even value engineering it. Maybe it's too high. Maybe it's because of the material. Maybe it's some other reason that we need to talk about the bid that came in, or it's going to make up part of the guaranteed maximum price.
Yeah. So once we compile it, if we are over for any reason, that's when then I think we would be reaching out to our low subcontractors and just talking with them directly if there's any VE items or if there's any specific stuff that we could try to help with to remove or change or anything that they have ideas with. That's where right away with our first step, I guess, would be is to reach out to our subcontractors, see if they saw anything that specifically that we could try to change or material or anything to help the cause for the pricing. Start with that, and obviously if it's material increase or anything like that, just due to the time, we can get, you know, cost breakdowns and stuff like that from everyone too. But that step one would be just I would go to every low subcontractor that we got, or probably the low two, you know, obviously, and reach both to try to keep it competitive. Just ask for any advice if they have any VE items or anything that they saw like we could change.
Okay.
And time-wise, that could occur the week following the bids, right? So. Yeah.
And honestly, we'll move on this right away. I mean, if I would see cost issues immediately, that'd be the first thing. I mean, we'll be making calls the same day of the bid. Because really, if we receive bids on that 19th, I mean, that evening, even, you know, when we can open them, we put them in our file. Obviously, there'll be more of a scope review just to make sure. But with us writing the scope, it really is pretty defined before it. So it's not like they can exclude stuff. I mean, we have a specific work categories that we call it that specifically says you need to include all these items, this spec section, everything. So it's not like we need a thorough scope review. If they bid that work category, they bought it all. They're doing everything in that category. So we should have a dollar amount that evening for sure. And then, we could start processing with that immediately too.
Okay. All right. So then next topic is getting back to the feedback we received from the city at the Board of Adjustments meeting. The two variances were approved for a setback or a frontage. So that was approved, having the vehicle sally port location on the north side of the building was acceptable, of course, based on the use of the building. The height variance was also approved. The transparency variance was approved contingent on us providing 40% transparency on the north and the south facade. And so from that meeting, we looked at how we can meet that transparency requirement. And what we're looking at now is looking to appeal to meet a 20% transparency on the north side of the building. And on the south side, we were able to meet the 40%. So I'm going to share with you where we're at with the design renderings here. And go back to, I'm going to get this a little bit bigger here. Okay, so what you're seeing here is an exhibit we will be issuing with the appeal. And the green is representing what we had when we went in to ask for the variance. So you can see that transparency or glazing of this facade was at 2%. And what we've modified since then is what you see in blue. And what we're looking to do is ask for, instead of the 40% that was asked for, go down to the 20%. And then we're providing a rendering to show what that does look like. And we talked about in the variance that on this north side, due to the fact that a majority of these spaces will be requiring security bars to comply with the Department of Corrections secure barriers. So the plan is for these to be aluminum storefront frames, and then provide bars behind them, with the exception of the vehicle sally port technically is outside of the secure perimeter, so that won't need bars within that space. But what we can do is meet with the user group and discuss, of course, which one of these glazing pieces will be clear versus translucent or opaque. And the city has accepted the fact that some of these will need to be opaque. Of course, we've got, for example, work release locker room where inmates are changing. Of course, we can't have clear glazing, so they acknowledge that and are accepting of the fact that that particular piece of glass will be opaque. We call it spandrel glazing. A lot of these spaces have a requirement for, you know, like the lockers, for example, will have taking up that space. So we can't really have windows that are below that 6-7 foot threshold. So that's part of the reason why we're asking for this variance, and that the function of the building, it will be a jail. I don't see the county changing the function or the occupancy of this building really at any point in the life of this building to a different function. So those are the reasonings for the appeal. Any questions on this facade? And looking on the south side. Here, the function of the south side of the building is technically not within the secure perimeter, so we won't be required to have security bars in this area. But it is back of house function, so again, we'll talk through which portion of these glazing pieces will be opaque versus transparent in that glazing piece with the user group. But in this case, we were able to meet the 40%, so we wouldn't be asking for an appeal on this side. We're just providing it to show compliance with the 40%. Any questions on this one? Okay. Okay. Next topic is looking at the site plan. We have been coordinating with the mechanical, electrical, and civil engineering team to review how the utilities will be entering this building, and talking about where all the mechanical and electrical equipment will sit within the mechanical and electrical room. So the only change that we actually have from the last time we met with you was the south side of the building and where the emergency generator sits. Previously, we were looking at it located south of the parking lot, and in reviewing how all the equipment lands, we've been able to modify the extent of the building to clean up and reduce the amount of corners along the south side, and then locate the emergency generator closer to the building and closer to the electrical room, and provide a little more green space along 4th Street here. Any questions on that?
Have we identified, is this generator going to solely take care of the jail, and then the existing LEC building will be serviced by its current generator? How that's
That
going
is
to fit
correct.
together?
Yep, we're gonna keep them separate.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so next topic, construction phasing. I don't have any graphics to share on this one, but a couple of topics we want to get into is discussing construction phasing and how the impact of the renovations will be for the dispatch area. So I don't know, Steve, do you want to maybe jump in, or maybe Tyler? I know you guys have had discussions more specific on how you're proposing to start and what kind of impacts that might be on schedule or occupants within the space.
Okay, well, this is Steve. I don't, after the conversation with Tyler, I don't think it will have much of an impact on the schedule as far as construction or anything to do with the jail. If anything, we're trying to figure out a way that would make sure that it would streamline things. If anything, it would have a potential impact more of the operations of the current facility, you know, the management wise. But it's going to happen one way or the other. So we were looking at a totality of everything. The construction start of the new facility should be synonymous for what's going to be running it, which is the dispatch. So the concept of sort of waiting a little bit to get dispatch up and running. You're trying to hodgepodge run things to a current, not very, it just wouldn't work very well. I think there'd be a lot of hit and misses, and you wouldn't be able to train the staff. So part of the concern was trying to get dispatch trained along with the jail staff. So if we sort of waited to the end of it, I guess I'm just sort of talking a little bit of rhetoric, but the whole idea was to make sure that it was streamlined. And the phrase that I'd like to stick with is that we should be stepping into this facility as a whole, as if we've been in here for a while, not just opening a door and then hoping it wings that this thing works right. So there's always going to be some kind of little issues and stuff. So it would be nice to have the construction of dispatch start. And Tyler and I just sort of picked an arbitrary date, and maybe it's even more in stone in Tyler's mind, but we were looking at December of starting to do some demolition already in that northwest corner of the current facility.
Yeah, no, that's the kind of talking with Steve. So we talked about, you know, what his needs would be with inmates and all that stuff. So ideally, and the way I think Danielle, your design team did it, is that we didn't do a temporary dispatch or anything like that. We're having one relocate. So we'll, towards the very end of the project, the last couple months, we'd get into the existing jail, you know, do whatever security walls that we'd have to do to make sure that it's safe for the existing jail to do some demolition in there. And then we'd start remodeling dispatch, start tearing down walls, build back. Ideally, then dispatch would be set up. So right when we're about ready to, like, kind of how I said to Steve, I would flip the switch, turn on the new dispatch, and then turn off the old, and the jail and everything will be up and running. That's kind of the plan, is how we would transition. We wouldn't do temporary lines to existing dispatch and run new jail out of an old, you know, the old computers and facility and everything like that. That we'd actually have everything up and running all at one time and open as one full unit. So that's kind of how it saves. It helps with cost too. I mean, schedule wise, we're compressing it. Maybe it's a little bit of a burden on Steve and the jail staff, but it really helps with construction costs, phasing, scheduling. We're not running temporary lines. We're not doing a bunch of extra work that's just going to get tore out in a month or two. So ideally, this is for sure the best way that we can do it, and it's great. It works with the county to do this also.
Does
Question,
the
Marcia.
south side of the jail stay occupied while the dispatch is being remodeled? So only a portion of the jail is taken out of commission?
Correct. That's how we said that if we can do whatever we need to keep it up, and that's kind of, it was more up to Steve of if it's too noisy, if they need to, that was kind of more in his hands of how we wanted to proceed with that as we were doing that work.
Question.
Oh, go ahead.
Question. Yeah, Marcia here is was this always in the original plan? It sounds like maybe some things have changed. Maybe I missed something.
Yeah, that's a good point. So we had previously been discussing internally that we would, or Market and Johnson would construct the new jail, so everything you see in the darker gray first, and then have have dispatch remain in the current location in the existing building, and then move inmates over to the new construction once that's finished, and then do, as a phase 2 of construction, do the remodel for dispatch within the existing building. So as we've been developing this concept, we're just looking at schedule, and that's where Tyler and Steve got together and talked about, okay, what can be done to do some of this work at the same time. So it's not dragging the schedule out. It's not, there's less of an impact. There's less of a disruption. So we'll of course fine tune the details and get that included in the documents, but it's important for the bidders to know when that work will occur, because it will affect the cost ultimately.
Okay, but we always planned on remodeling the dispatch or moving it?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just a matter of when.
Okay.
Okay.
Marcia, Marcia,
go
we've
ahead.
always had an issue with our jail inspections because of the way the dispatch center is currently set up. There's supposed to be a Sally port on that too, because they are responsible for opening the doors in the jail.
Okay, thank you.
And then another topic of discussion, we have been working with our engineering team to discuss how we will provide the mechanical systems for the new dispatch system. So what we are proposing is that we have an independent system that's specific for the dispatch area, so that it won't rely on the existing equipment within the current LEC. And so I know there's been some questions as far as what will the rest of the jail be once it moves out. That can still be determined later based on the plan that we'll be providing new independent systems for the renovated space.
So this is Steve. So when you're talking mechanical stuff for dispatch, you just to reiterate, we're talking to make sure that, because they're going to be their own confined thing. You come to work, you walk through 2 doors, you stay in there, and if you're on a 10 or 12 hour shift, 10 or 12 hours later, you walk back out of those 2 doors. So they'll have the system won't be based off of the current system that's in the building right now at 201 West 3rd, which we've had a lot of issues with, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. And just for clarification for whoever wants to know what I was asking, it's the system doesn't keep up very well, meaning the heating, cooling, and especially just the ventilation. So if you're in an area and if they're going to have their own kitchenette to make their meals, or turn on a microwave, and if someone doesn't like the smell of salmon, if you don't have the right ventilation in there, if someone doesn't go good with the smell of that salmon, if it's not taken care of now, they're going to be confined and stuck in there. You can't just walk to like a kitchen, because the kitchen is part of the dispatch. it sort of becomes, I don't want to say an unbearable environment, but it starts to get, bad feelings going, and what you're going to have, and it just needs to be a thing that's addressed, because right now in this building, it doesn't have good, well, heating and cooling's always been an issue, but even the ventilation's not very well. So that was part of the issue right from the get-go, is how are we going to address that with dispatch, because we're actually locking them down even tighter.
Yeah.
There been any discussions about the existing utilities and when they're going to be moved and stuff? I know the last time we talked was a while ago. Is that on the agenda to talk about? Or?
It's not on the agenda, but I haven't heard any updates from Excel, but what I can do is circle back and review that schedule, just to ensure that that's in the right timeline. Okay.
Yeah, Dave, has anybody contacted you?
No follow-up discussions, and I would think we would want to get that moved like sooner rather than later. There's no reason to delay on that. Just get it out of the way.
Well, yeah, they've got to put that line in under the parking lot over at the courthouse to
Right.
eliminate the overhead line. So
Exactly, and
Yeah.
that work will take them a bit to design and to install, and that needs to take place.
okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point.
Danielle, do you have some contacts there? Do you want to follow up on them, or should we? What do you think the best way to move that forward is?
I can certainly follow up. I know it was Christopher we were working with at Excel, but yeah, I can circle back. Mm-hmm.
So,
I'll copy you on it, Dave.
yeah, and he's no longer with them. He now works for Rochester Public Utilities. So.
Oh yeah. Okay. Okay. I'll get to the bottom of it.
Okay. If you need us to shake any trees, let me know.
Okay, will do. Okay.
Can you include me on that, Danielle, with David?
Yeah. Yep. Okay. All right. Any other questions on phasing for construction?
One thing on dispatch, can you send me the latest drawing, what they're gonna do for the mechanical part for dispatch? I know when Steve was, we had our on-site visit, we kind of wanted to change a few things. I'm just kind of seeing where we're at right now with what he came up with.
Yeah, I think he was gonna draw up a couple of different options for you to consider. I know that the one was independent Liebert units for dispatch. But yeah, I'll send you those options, Aaron.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, so getting back to the agenda. Okay, so FF&E, let's see, I think Steve, I don't know if you need to share your screen with anything, or if this is just more of a topic of discussion.
I don't have anything specifically to share, but it's just I think just to make sure that we're all on the same page of what's what we're going to have as far as what I'm going to call owner things, and not having the permanent furniture, fixtures, and equipment, that we're sticking really with removable things and having options to be able to change rooms easy enough, or locations for what might be intended from day one to 6 months or 6 years later, changing it to something else, that we're still fine with all that.
Yeah, and you guys completed a pretty extensive, detailed list with all the costs outlined that was plugged into the estimate that Market and Johnson previously presented. So you don't see any changes from what you guys put together for SD?
I don't. I know.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. I know there could always be, some minor ones, but for the most part, the whole idea was to leave a lot of options for us in the future. So that's why we wanted to do what we wanted to do.
Okay. Ken, was there any other topic you wanted to touch base on with FF&E?
No, I think that was pretty well covered.
Okay. Great. Well, next steps. We have a meeting actually scheduled today at 11 with the subcommittee regarding the tunnel design. So we did receive some updated information from the geotechnical engineer that will be that we've reviewed with our engineers, and moving forward, it's just updating some of the structural and civil and mechanical designs within those systems. Just wanted to give you guys an update on where we're at with subcommittee meetings. And for the next committee meeting, I think the plan will be to get back together to review the DD cost before it goes to the board. And if I remember, we were looking at potentially saying that, would it be the week of the 14th if the estimate comes in around June 10th, getting back with this group to review that. I know we've been doing Thursday meetings, so curious to know your schedules for June 17th in the morning.
Hey, there's a jail design and construction committee meeting right now you're missing.
Yep.
Is there anybody that anybody that can't make it on the 17th, June?
Maybe that's a better question. Yeah.
Oh, looks good.
You want that at 9?
Yeah, 9 a.m.
And
June 17th. Okay. Okay. Well, we got through what I was hoping to cover today. Does anybody have any follow-up questions? No?
Not for this, but I don't know if that's the 11 o'clock one, Danielle, or whatnot. If that would be a good time to address some of those bullet items that I sent after Aaron and I
Oh,
met.
yeah, absolutely. Yep. Sounds like a plan. And if we need to schedule another one, we can certainly next week too, Steve. Okay. All right. Well, that covers it for today. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Have a good one. Bye now.
Goodbye.
Bye.